where everybody knows your name. And I need to let you guys know straight away that I have been in bed this week with a nasty cold. Not going to lie to anyone. I've said before, no secrets. And so you are occasionally going to hear some phlegm in the throat. That is going to occur during the course of the show. And you might hear the occasional sniffing. I've got the tissues there.
That's
there you are, boom.
Yeah.
No, because it's going to happen, and it's no good me pretending, like many DJs would. You know, I suspect Dr. Neil Fox, for instance, a man who obviously can not only self-medicate, but also he probably is such a professional, he never gets sick, and good luck to him. But I'm human, you know. Harry, you've known me for a long time. I'm a very weak man.
Annoyingly so.
Yeah, kind of frustratingly. Makes you angry, I know.
Very.
And so, yes, I've been sick, and that may impact on the show. I mean, the show, as you know, is variable in quality. Sometimes it's passable. Most of the time it's not. So who knows how today's show is going to pan out. But, now, I don't know what the rules are here, but naturally, I am not a man who's going to go to the doctors, you know, and queue up with all the plebs. Alright, it's absurd. It would be crazy for me to go into an NHS doctors. Those days, as you say, Harry, are long gone. Equally, I'll be damned if I'm going to pay for private doctoring. You know,
you're not going to waste money.
Please, it's an NHS, you know, country. You know, we've
you pay your dues.
I pay my dues. People died so I could have a free health service, and so consequently, I'm torn. I don't know where I am in the middle. So I'm thinking, it's a public service broadcaster. Surely that works both ways. We provide a public service to the listener. They in turn should provide a listener a service to me, the broadcaster. Consequently, are you a doctor? Listening in, are you a doctor? Firstly, if you are, can you pop into the studio and give me a quick checkup? Because I'm worried that it might get on the chest. It could be an infection. I've had this problem before. Last time I had a similar chest infection. I was out of... And, you know, I can probably conjure up a cough at some point. So, firstly, can you pop in? 99 Great Portland Street, Central London. Just come in, ask for me, come straight up, bring your little bag with your... I want to see at least a stethoscope, otherwise I don't believe you're a real doctor. And no, don't be ironically sending a stripper who's dressed as a nurse or something. None of that. Proper docs. If you cannot be bothered to get out of bed on a Sunday afternoon, I don't know what you doctors are like, all sleeping in late after a wild night on the booze on a Saturday night. If you can't be bothered, at least get in touch and I can run through my symptoms for you on air and you can offer a diagnosis, sort of in the way that NHS Direct would. So 64046 if you are a legitimate doctor. Only legitimate doctors, please. I do not want doctors in the way that Dr. Dre is a doctor, or as we said before, Dr. Fox. I want Doctor in the Medics. I want a proper doc. 64046 Stephen with a ph.6music@bbc.co.uk. Brilliant if you can pop in. If not, get in touch and I will run through my symptoms. Thank you very much indeed. Released beginning of December, that's The Runners and All Over Again on The Steve Show, BBC Six Music, with me, Stephen Merchant. And of course, you already heard the voice of professional banker Harry earlier, and good to have you back here.
Thanks.
Harry, as always, to sort of fill in the gaps, to paste over the cracks when I run out of words. And we also are pleased to welcome back a very, very tiny man who's not been here for a while, Dan.
Hi there.
Applause to Steve. Right,
thank you. It's lovely to be back. It's really nice to see you, actually, because now I've famously moved out.
Yes.
And it's actually a pleasure to see you again.
Yeah, I know what you mean, because I used to grow really tired of your stupid
I used
face.
to hate it, yeah. But I'd get back from a long shift and you'd be in, obviously, because you weren't working, watching telly.
Or worse still, I'd come back from a heavy day's, you know, schmoozing.
Yeah.
and I'd see you watching sports.
I'd be watching sports.
As was your wont.
In my pants.
Exactly. Watching, and we should just point out, if you've only just started listening to the Steve Show, Dan and I used to live together, not in the biblical sense, and Dan has since moved out to live with a woman, what he terms a woman,
in the biblical sense,
in the biblical sense, out of biblical sense.
Well, actually.
Exactly.
And don't pass judgment on me on national radio.
Exactly. Joking aside, I do have some of your mail.
Oh, thank you.
So I do.
Well, that saves me a trip.
If you could at least bother to to get it forwarded to your own. You've got a package there, which I was very tempted to open.
Oh, that's quite big. I think that's a prize, I will.
Okay.
Speak amongst yourself, listeners.
Yeah, you just occupy your own time. I got some other letters here for you. I think there's maybe a bill.
Yeah.
That's something from
What was the competition, Dan? It wasn't a BBC one, was it?
No. No.
As an employee?
Obviously not, no. That would be instant. The police would be round immediately if that was the case.
Yes, thank you very much, Dan, for coming back. And also, of course, Sammy from the North. Little round of applause for her. She's come all this way. She didn't have to.
Hello.
So we're not doing it for the money. And good to see you again, Sammy. How's your week been?
It's been stressful, to say the least.
Has it?
Yes. That's my honest answer. It has been. But it's started to wind down. And I'm happy again. So
okay. I look forward to probing you more fully over your week. However, I'm interested to note that I believe, Harry, Am I right in saying that you now have a Facebook fan page?
I have, yeah. I think it was set up late last night.
Right.
And that's really my excuse for not having many members.
Right, okay.
It's not my rank and popularity. No, there's it's all going off really. The Rufus group is closing in on 300.
That's impressive.
Yeah, Sammy is up to 110.
That's excellent work, considering how popular Rufus is.
Yeah, and I'm it's not a numbers game really, is it? 16's as good a number as any.
Sure.
Which is how many are in mine. And Crazy Insane Jude has a group as well.
Interestingly, though, no fan site for Tiny Dan.
Nothing.
It's an absurd oversight.
It's not,
Nothing.
because you've always been one of the least popular members of the gang.
I'm a regular bottom two in any online poll.
It's extraordinary because even when we're not on air, you're
Yeah.
still incredibly unpopular.
Very
it's
low
extraordinary. People just emailing in, please don't bring him back.
I'm right down there with Mr. Crazy Music Question from the early days.
I'm afraid no, he has 18 different Facebook fan sites.
Right, okay.
And 4,000 fans. But no, it's an oversight. We mentioned that neither Sammy or Harry had one. I'm sure someone will set one up by the end of today's programme. So if you can be bothered, maybe you're a friend of Dan or you just feel sympathetic for him, then set up a Tiny Little Dan Facebook fan page. Okay, also we're looking for doctors. Are you a doctor? Can you... There you are. Let me just clarify something. The phlegm is it's kind of a greeny grey. Now, I don't know if that's bad or good. I know that...
Is it solid, or is it, little balls of it in a kind of translucent goo?
I've not studied it that closely, but don't worry, I'm going to be hacking some up during this next record
Sort
and
of
exam.
questions proper doctors want to know the answers to.
Well, we shall find out. 64046 if you are a doc. Stephen.6music@bbc.co.uk. I really am genuinely looking for some kind of diagnosis. Am I going to need to go to a proper physician during the course of the week, get some medication? If you can pop into the studio, that's even better. 99 Great Portland Street is our location. Do not be afraid to come in. I'm sure I could return the favour, perhaps not financially, but certainly some kind of signed DVD. It's the Steve Show, BBC Six Music, with me, Stephen Merchant, and my little posse here, and we welcome back, as I say, Tiny Little Dan, who has been absent for some time now, probably been involved with sports in some way.
Yes.
That's your daytime job. Do people know you're moonlighting on the radio?
Yes, yeah, I
they think
cleared
that's
it. I
about
cleared it
all.
with my line manager, and they're fine with it. which
What
is
about
just as
you,
well.
Harry? Does your bank know?
Yeah, they know.
They do they? They don't mind.
No, they love it. They're very excited by it.
Yeah, and Sammy, what about your people?
My telecoms people, they don't care.
They just don't care.
As long as I'm there taking abuse from people, that's fine by them.
Good.
Yeah.
I respect that. So, Dan, in an effort to try and win back some of the populace and the listenership, we come to you first for a musical choice this week.
Goodness.
And what have you chosen?
Well, what's the Stevie Show policy on Amy Winehouse these days?
I think we're generally pro Winehouse. We
Yeah.
are worried about her and her, dodgy bloke, but generally we give her the thumbs up.
Yeah, it's been a bad week for her, but I've delved into my dusty old bag, and she gave me a record from Lores Alexandria, which is it's an old soul record. I've dug out a few of those for the show of late, but it's very Winehouse-esque, I think. It's just an example of where Winehouse has come from. One of these dramatic, heart-wrenching old soul classics.
Sure.
That you might not be that familiar with, so maybe we should take a listen.
Let's hear it. Big revs here on the Steve Show. Harry has, I think, for the first time, just complimented Dan on one of his musical choices.
Yeah.
I thought it
I
was
don't think
wonderful.
anyone was expecting that.
No, least of all me. I thought that would infuriate him.
Yeah, it
especially when it
would.
gets a little bit jazzy towards the end.
No, that was wonderful.
Okay.
Yeah, go on. Oh, that's really sweet. That's really nice. It's good. I think we should have more
Slightly
affection.
unclean, but no, it was okay. Human contact.
Just touch him in some way.
Yeah.
Go on. Just stroke his leg. Just
No,
stroke his leg.
I just did.
Just stroke his leg.
No. What?
Come on.
What is it? You made me kiss Rufus last week.
Yeah, but that was a very, very popular moment on the show. The fan pages were wild about it. So what was the tune, Dan, and who was it by?
It was called I'm Wishing. That's an apostrophe at the end of that, by Lores Alexandria, who's no longer with us, sadly, but she was largely active in the 60s, doing that kind of heart-wrenching big soul sound. And I love that sort of thing. As you may have gathered from some of my choices in the past, I lead quite a mediocre life.
Yes.
And that provides the much-needed melodrama.
Sure.
It means that I don't have to live through all this anguish and pain.
Yeah.
And I feel the same about Winehouse, you know. I mean, it's a shame it's been splashed all over the tabloids, but she, in a way, is a modern-day version of that, going through all this anguish writ large. And
Anguish is fine. I think anguish
yeah.
almost works better in a sense.
Yes,
You know?
but saying anguish is the worst thing that's happened to me this
Yeah,
week.
sure.
Whereas Winehouse has had a husband carted off to the jailhouse and all kinds of
Hey,
things.
talking as a big house. Talking of ripped from the pages of the tabloids, I imagine, like you've been overwhelmed this week with news of Rick Waller, former Pop Idol contestant. I've always been quietly fascinated by Waller, a giant of a man in every sense.
Yeah.
Nicknamed, I'm sure, by many, Fats Waller, of course.
Brilliant.
Big old guy. And he had, as you may remember, a smash hit with a version of Dolly Parton's "I Will Always Love You." And there was reports in the press that he was giving up music, which obviously shocked many of us, because a fan who he is now engaged to be married to, came over to him at a gig, and it was reported, they rather gleefully reported that she was the only fan that came up to him and gave him a big hug. Anyway, they're getting engaged, but she apparently is a pagan, and she has banned him from doing any more music. Or she said that you only marry me, you've got to give up music, right? So obviously, naturally, as many Waller fans were, I was shocked and stunned to find out that he was turning his back on music. And I instantly, of course, went to the Waller website, where there is, you may wish to check this out, Harry, quite a heartfelt plea from Waller that not only puts the record straight and makes it clear that he's not turning his back on music because of his love, but actually because he wants to find other ways of supporting his soon-to-be family. Right? He feels music's not the only way, Dan, and he wants to do maybe a bit of light temping or some administrative work somewhere. But then, by the end, he makes a quite a vicious swipe at the British press for the way that they've treated him, because there was about 7 lines in the Sun dedicated to this story.
Yeah,
He obviously feels that that's intrusion, and so anyway, I'm just pleased to report that Waller is not forced out of the music business because of his pagan wife, but because of his own choosing. And this led me on to my other thought, which was, and you remember last week I was trying to find out who was it that recorded that song. We didn't have anyone who could track down the artist behind. Dan, you may not have heard this, but I was listening to the radio in a late night cab. And the lyrics were, it was a sort of R&B tune, and it kind of had that slow R&B groove, and the lyrics were, what about a little slap and tickle? And I was very charmed by this, because I thought it sort of brought together two of my loves, of course, American R&B and a sort of carry-on sensibility, and no one could find out who that was. But further to that, I want anyone, if they can tell me this, and whether they can confirm this is true. You remember the video, I don't know if you remember the video for "I Will Always Love You," the Rick Waller version, which is giant Rick in quite a sort of boutique-y sort of loft apartment, very white, and sort of lots of, lots of mirrors and so on. Now, there was I don't know whether it's an urban myth, there was a rumour that someone, maybe the art director, maybe the director of the video, who'd obviously been assigned to it, didn't particularly want to do it, had supposedly left a kind of message on the mirror, or somewhere within the set, that's visible in the video, that sort of makes his feelings known about what he thinks of this video.
What does it say?
I don't know. I can't remember what whether it's effing and blinding, or whether it's just a sort of subtle message, or indeed if this is true. But again, I put it out to the Six Music listenership. Do you have any evidence? Can you remember this? Am I the only? Have I imagined this? 64046 Stephen.6music@bbc.co.uk. It may just be one of the great rock and roll urban myths. But was there a secret message in the Rick Waller video? Am I the only person who remembers Rick Waller or cares about Rick Waller?
His entire career has passed me by.
Has it really?
Yeah, I recognise his features, but no, nothing's really hitting home.
Okay, well, I'm sure that, I mean, again, it's a public service broadcast, I'm sure there's a couple of Rick Waller fans out there who pleased to have this information. Okay, so we'll have a tune from the Duke Special, and then we might be heading towards the news. Duke Special and Our Love Goes Deeper Than This, recent single from them, and they will hopefully be in session for the Steve Show next week. Exciting news. And further news is that we also have live music later from Gideon Conn, who, when I'm endlessly, as you know, seeking out new music. But sometimes when I've maybe had too much new music, I like to seek out new poetry. And I went to a poetry evening, and Gideon was there. Now, he is a musician, but he's got a sort of poetic tip. And so he's down there, and I thought, this guy's good.